Patricia Lohan, welcome to Get Gutsy.
Thank you so much. I'm excited.
Yes. And if you're listening on the audio of the podcast, you might not be able to see Patricia's cool background, but if you are catching this video, she had this beautiful, celestial background with stars and really cool colors and this message, life is amazing. And so when I saw that, I said, oh, we're going to have fun.
That is for sure.
We're going to have fun today. So tell everyone, Patricia, where are you located? Where are you doing this interview from?
So I am doing this interview from Ubud in Bali. I've lived here for the last 2.5 years here with my husband. I'm originally from Ireland. So it's a bit of a journey, but it's been very, very, very supportive environment here and we just love it. So Bali is home right now.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. When we first started talking, I couldn't quite place your accent. I was like, Australia? I was trying to figure it out. And then you said Ireland, of course. And now you were reminding me of, I think I'm going to say her name correctly, Saoirse Ronan.
Yes. Oh my God, that's right. The actress.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm getting that correct, but I saw her on Saturday Night Live and there was a whole skit on how to say her name because, for non-Irish people, we're kind of like, what? We see that. Yeah. But then they did this whole little reenactment of how to say her name. She's like Saoirse, and it was really, really clever. Plus I think she's a great actress. All right. So you grew up in Ireland and then 2.5 years ago, we're like, I'm going to Bali. Was it a straight line from Ireland to Bali or did you have any other stops?
No way, Jose. So I've been the East has always called me. So when I was 19, I lived in the Philippines. And then in my early 20s, I lived in Japan. And then from there, I moved to India in my late 20s and lived there. And that ended up being, I was back in Ireland. So every time it was kind of I went to this place in the East. And then I was like, I need to go back to the West. And every single time. So I ended up back in the West. And I actually didn't ever expect to live here, although my vision board and my dream and what I really was creating in my life was I want to live in a tropical country. I had met this amazing Irish man and he built this beautiful house. It was in the countryside and there was sheep out in the fields and around us and it was this dream idyllic home. Mm-hmm. And we just got married. We were talking about what we would do for our honeymoon and we both wanted to go back to India. We're like, let's go to India. And I was like, we need more time. And we got to Ubud after India, not really working out. And a friend was like, come to visit us in Bali. So we're like, okay, we'll come for a week. And we got here after 3 days in Ubud. We rented a house for 6 months. And that was 2.5 years ago. And I honestly did not ever really imagine once I met him, I was like, oh, this is it now. We're just going to be here in Ireland. I'm not going to be able to do my travels or live in foreign countries. And he's at 100% going, I love this. We're never going back. And I'm like, oh, yes.
Wow. That's so awesome. So it's just your travels got you there and it just captivated you. It captivated your heart. So what do you do you still have the house in Ireland? Do you have it? Do you rent it out? Is it just there for you?
We still have it. It's on my husband's ancestral land. So we have a really, really strong connection with that. And so we have the house is still there. We have a beautiful family living in it and it supports us to be here. Gives us a bit of support to be here. It's pretty amazing. So it's still, we're really connected with it energetically, but at the same time, it's almost, we have done some shamanic work with it to connect with it, to support us and as well, because it really got a bit upset because we actually got married on our land and we'd a shamanic Celtic ceremony in our garden and it got a bit mad when we shipped off.
So let's talk about that. So how did you know? Because I'm totally into all this stuff. I'm like, ooh, let's talk about that. So how did you know that your house was angry at you for I guess not inhabiting it, not maybe it didn't feel like you were appreciating the house?
Mm-hmm. So it was really interesting because it was 100% supportive. The minute we decided we wanted to leave and we were going to go traveling for a little while, we literally manifested the perfect couple to come. I was at the gym sitting around afterwards with a group of women and this random woman walks in and she's like, I'm looking to rent a house in the area. And I was like, our house. And she came and then we all had mutual friends. It was all this crazy synchronistic thing.
Right.
And they moved in as caretakers, and even the language that we used was about caretakers. And you know, people hear about me, but our work is as feng shui consultants, and we work with the land, we work with the house, we work with the energy of the house. So our house is a super supportive, energetic space. But once they decided to leave, the house remained empty and vacant for like 2 months. And that's like totally unheard of when it comes to like, there's like a housing crisis in Ireland at the time. This is a couple of years ago. And we were like, what is going on? And we did a meditation. We were like, the house is really upset. Like, because we're able to tune in, like it has a personality where the house is upset that we've left. We need to go back. And I had to go back for family reasons. And the first thing I did was I went back. I just did recheck the feng shui, because obviously things had just been left a little bit off. And we messaged the shamans who had married us, and we said to them, you know, could you go up to the house and just check the land? Like, what's going on? Like, we can't understand why it won't rent. This is somewhere we know that the feng shui is in, but the house, and they, like, literally, she just, it's a couple, and the email back was like kind of a bit of a little giggle. She said she just laughed out loud, and she's like, they're going to have to come home. And we did. I had to come home anyways, and then Ken joined me. We got back, and we did a ceremony on the land and asked it for its permission to, we will get really amazing people in to look after it, and we still have caretakers there, and we still, like, every time we go home, we give offerings to the land and we thank it, and we just created this beautiful synergy with it. And for me and for us in our development, in our own career and in this business and in this life, it was an eye-opener, because, you know, you kind of were like, wow, it's not just about like getting the remedies in and getting it in. It's about this connection and this personality and actually caretaking and not dismissing it. You know, this is a space that we live in, and it's really our temple that we can create to honor us and respect us, and we need to respect it in that ways. And in many ways, when we step back and we're like, we just like legged it out of Ireland and we abandoned it with this nice couple, but once they left, it was like, we're not just taking anybody in. You know, you left us with lovely caretakers who were perfect, but like, this isn't. So it was really interesting. And immediately once we did the work, I got a email from a beautiful client of mine who's like, I'm looking for a house in the area. I'm just emailing you because I know you live there. And I was like, our house. And I just knew it was like the perfect connection. And they just messaged us. They brought us for dinner to the house when we were back in Ireland. And they were saying, they're like, so you're not planning on coming back? Because like we love it here. Like, our child is going to the local school. And we're like, we're so happy. You're happy. We're happy. The house is happy. We're all happy. So it was this great thing. But it was a very, very interesting process for sure.
Wow. And it's so like connected to your work, like your professional work. So let's talk about that. So you're feng shui consultants, experts, you know, so how did you get into that?
So I don't know whether it's the fact that as I said, I've done a lot of travel, but as a little kid, my mom always said, Patricia had her coat on before anyone was even talking about like going anywhere. Like, I'm always on the go. But we moved house 22 times. Wow. So when you move house, a lot of times you get more interested in like design, and like we were moving from this smaller house. And I remember so vividly moving from this smaller house, and I was getting my own bedroom because I used to share with my sisters. And for some reason, as a 16-year-old, I asked for books about feng shui. I have no clue, like, where I heard about it or how I heard about it. Like, this is like really a long time ago. And I was like, I want these books about feng shui. So I got books about feng shui as a gift. And I remember trying to study it and look at these squares and figure out the areas. And I was like, this is so complicated. And I closed the books and I like put them on the shelf. But I still always had this like fascination with it. So when I went on my travels so I had like a big an entrepreneurial business in Ireland, set up with my dad, quit all that, like bit of a breakdown. So I set up a restaurant with my dad, a bar and restaurant. I was 24, I had 30 staff. It was like kind of crazy. And it was like 7-figure turnover in the first year. Like, it was kind of like, oh, what the hell is this? So after 6 years of 17-hour days, Patricia and her soul was like, I used to go home on a Friday and cry every Friday because my partner would be like, oh, Friday, ha ha ha. And I'm like, this is real. Like there's some part of me that's breaking up. And I was just in bits. And I went on a yoga retreat and decided that I was going to move to India to become a yoga teacher.
Nice.
And that was kind of like the thing. And I thought I was going to India. It was a bit like the Bali thing. We thought we were going to Bali for a week. We're 2.5 years later. I thought I was going to India for a month to become a yoga teacher. A year and a bit later, I kind of came home going, I'm going to teach sound healing with Tibetan bowls and bring sound healing to Ireland and do yoga and do all this amazing stuff, which I did. So that was this interesting process that I really hadn't like connected with feng shui until I decided to move to Dublin, which I'm from the west coast of Ireland, like right by the ocean in Ireland, in Galway. And I decided to move to Dublin with my singing bowls and my yoga and all my spiritual awakening stuff.
Right.
And got to Dublin and I'm like starting from scratch going, what am I doing here? This is crazy. But it all just started to grow and I started my practice and got clients and was doing sound healing. And it was just amazing because when the student's ready, the teacher appears. And two most famous international feng shui consultants arrived into Ireland very close to each other. I was at their talks and I was like, oh, I remember this. And I was literally moving into a new apartment. And I was moving into the new apartment and I'm like, I am going to attract the man of my dreams. That was like my vision. Like I had no interest in like money or building my business. I was like, my business is tipping away. It's all fine. But like, I just need to meet the guy. Like that is it. And it was like those books. And I found the books back home in Galway and I was like, what do I need to do in my bedroom? And I did all the feng shui for my bedroom. And within a few months, I met Ken.
Wow.
And he had feng shuied his bedroom.
What?
Like this is like the craziness because I was there going, he's feng shuied this place. Like the first time I stayed at his house, I was like, he's totally feng shuied this. Like he totally has. And then he was like, and here's a dressing gown. And I was like, he's like, you know, the one is being washed. I just need another one. And I'm like, I know he's organized, but this is totally feng shui. And then he did, obviously, he was like, yes, I have been interested in it. I've read some books and all that. And that was how it happened. Like we both then decided to train together and became feng shui consultants, did our house. And what was interesting was that I was working with these clients and all these little seeds, I would be asking them, like, because I was doing like healing and intuitive work, releasing stress and trauma and all that magical, limiting beliefs, all that cool work. And I'd be like, tell me about your sitting room. What's going on with your daughter's bedroom? What's going on? And they would be like looking at me going, talking about? Like, what is this to do with me and my grief or my anger or my thing? And I'm like, do you have stuff under your bed? They would literally look at me like 50 heads. And there was one particular little girl that I worked with and she was so like I had a lot of clients that were with special needs and autism. They loved the sound healing work. And I used to be saying to her mom, there's something with her bedroom. And her mom's like, no, it's totally fine. And then one week after I'd done the feng shui, I was like sending out newsletter going, oh, I'm so passionate doing feng shui, blah, blah, blah. She bumped into me in the street and she's like, you used to always talk about her bedroom. Come do our house. And we got to her house. And I was like, oh my God, like there's so much we can do because she didn't sleep. And like basically they didn't. And again, it was like, I was totally dedicated for feng shui for the love thing. When I first started, they wanted their daughter to sleep. Like that was their mission. They're like, if she sleeps, her sister will sleep. We will all sleep. Everyone will sleep. It's just a happy home if we sleep. So that was their main priority. And when we looked at the energies, it was like fighting swords. It was like a war zone, essentially. And they were like, oh, that's the perfect way to describe it. We just like changed her bed around, put the right remedies into balance and neutralize the energy, did some decluttering. And within a couple of weeks, she was like sleeping all night, you know, and that was where it was like, oh my God, wow. Like the inner work is 100%, it's so important. And I know this is what we teach, like you need to do the inner work. You need to clear the beliefs. You need to clear all that stuff. But if you go home to a house that has energy that is not supportive, energy that is of that old vibration, that old energy, that old personality, essentially. It's like pulling you back. It's like this tug of war because no matter how high your energy rises, this space that you're living in isn't changing. It's not changing fundamentally. You can do space clearings and loads of cool stuff, but it's not going to change until you absolutely work from from, I suppose the nice way of describing feng shui is acupuncture for your home. So when you go to the acupuncturist, they check the chi and they're like, oh, it's a bit off. Oh, that's a bit off. Okay, we need to put some needles in. We need to get this running. And that's kind of what I do, essentially. I'm like, okay, there's that area of your home. We need to put this in, this needle in here, clear that one, get that going, get the chi here. And it's not really about like moving furniture or throwing, or like, you know, or putting weird trinkets in your house. Like, so I suppose when I came from a very energetic space with the feng shui, I was like, oh, this is it. Like, this is the combination. It's like the inner work and the physical environment. And it's where we can flourish. And it's very, very exciting. Wow. I'm very excited about it.
Yeah. I've never thought about it in this way before. I mean, I know about feng shui. I have never worked with a feng shui consultant. I had I think I had a book once, but I'm super into like the energy of a space, and I can feel that. I mean, I use sage and Palo Santo, and I've got the bells and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So for those who are kind of curious to like how they can know what's going on in their home, are there simple things that you suggest that someone can just kind of like tune in or make some change, or what, like kind of like a basic 101?
So the nice thing when it comes to feng shui is that there's layers, and it's like, you know, it's like peeling the layers of the onion. Right. So like number one, it's about like, if you're like, do your spirits rise when you walk into your house? Like, when you open up your front door, do you actually feel like, I'm so happy to be here? I'm so grateful for this house, because if you're just like giving out about it all the time, it's just going to be like, oh, this place, they just hate me here. They just hate being here. And you're going to get this like energetic tension. As well as that, like, so what do you see when you come in? Do you see a beautiful picture of your family that rises your spirits? Or do you see a mirror? If you see a mirror, you're pushing all that energy back out, you know? So it's like a really interesting dynamic with spotting things that you might have in your house that you just take for granted. And my favorite way of like working with feng shui is, the first layer is like declutter. And we're all like, this is kind of like, you know, Marie Kondo has done an amazing job of like organizing your home and decluttering it. And for me, I'm kind of like, the work that we do is like the next level. So we work on decluttering, cleansing the space, making sure everything in your house, you love it. And just like my perspective is about like making sure your house is like your vision board for what you're creating in your life. And a lot of the time it can be filled with old stuff that has really negative energetic connections and emotional connections, and a whole that can hold you back. I'm not saying you need to get rid of everything, but I want to just make sure that the things that you do have in your home are working, that you love them, and that they have a connection with like where you are going, or have a very positive, uplifting energy. And just by doing that alone, I have seen like enormous shifts in people's lives. And then when it comes to like the next level, and the next level is every part of your home. So I love thinking about a house like it's a person. So it's like, this house has its own personality. It's like, it's got eyes, the windows. So you keep your windows nice and clean so we can see out into the world. It is a mouth. You know, the front door, you need to be fed. Like, so you open your front door, the energy comes in, you're feeding your house. So is it easy to get in? You know, I remember talking to a lady who's been trying to sell her house for 2.5 years. She had no viewers for the whole house. And I was just, I don't know where she heard one of my interviews, and she messaged me, and she's like, oh my God, I've been trying to sell this house. When the first gate is like so hard to get in. When you actually got that gate in, you would trip up on a thing. Then you couldn't get in the front door because the screen was broken. And I was like, you know, no, you can't get in.
You're blocked.
So it's about allowing it in. And then each single part of your house, if we think about it in terms of a person, our body has like functions. So our heart is beating the blood around, and our lungs for breathing. Every part of your home is a different function. So there's like the love and marriage area, there's the prosperity area, there's the family area. And you kind of can, so in feng shui, there's different schools of feng shui, and the one that I practice is the compass one. So a lot of people were like, there's an older school where you stand at your front door and you're like, over that side is that area, and over this side is that there. That's not the type I practice. I practice classical feng shui, which is like the original where we used compasses. And it comes from a really ancient tradition. So it's like, I also think people are like, oh, feng shui, new age and woo woo and all that stuff. I'm like, it's 5,000 years old.
Oh, like
So
like
this is
yoga.
like ancient. Like this is super old. So what they originally, and what it really was all about, was intentionality of positioning your home. So it was like using the compass, using the sun to gauge where's the best place to position my home energetically. And when I position it this way, it's going to be good for health, which everyone else wants, good healthy house, and good harvest. So your harvest is obviously your wealth. It's like what seeds you sow, what you're reaping. And that's how they were creating these homes in ancient times, with a lot of intentional. They weren't just like, oh, here's a big lot, let's throw up a load of houses.
Right.
They were done very, very, very specifically. And that's where they were creating an environment that was going to be 100% supportive of health and prosperity. So like fast forward now, we're in this like build all these houses and kind of do everything fast, and it's not with that sense of intentionality. So every part of your home has these different organs and different parts. So this part in the southeast is going to be your prosperity area. So that part of your home is your wealth and prosperity. It represents your capacity to make money, your capacity to hold onto it. Like I have clients who've had like areas, the prosperity area that's missing, or they can't access it, or the energy is really negative. They're like, what's going on? Like, why is this happening to me? And you're like, well, you don't have a prosperity area in your house, because obviously houses were built very simply in ancient times, whereas now they're like these complex, especially architectural ones that are like built with crazy shapes, and we're like, but everything. And the nice part about feng shui is there's a remedy for everything, and it's really easy to sort things out. We just like work with what you've got. So on that layer, it's about like finding out what part of your home represents what part of your life, keeping it clear, being intentional about the imagery you put in it, using affirmations. And then the next level is how I work with clients specifically in my online program and personally, by saying, actually, this energy, the chi in this area is really negative. So that's going to be causing, this is why you're having legal suits. This is why there's like, relationship issues. This is why your kids are fighting all the time. Like, and all we have to do is like, just put in, just like the acupuncturist, put the needle in, get the chi running, alternated. So turn it from negative to positive and allow it to flow. So it's about, for me, it's about just like making it simple and being like, oh, it's not something like crazy and weird, and I'm not going to get you to move all your furniture and throw everything out. It's about really understanding that each part of your home, once you know what it represents, has a very, very, very powerful way of supporting you and supporting your family. And I just believe that we all deserve lives that are easy and flowing, and that a lot of the time, I think that, especially because there's a lot of people, it's like the whole personal development and inner work thing is kind of like really flourishing and growing, which is amazing. And they get like a lot of people and clients I would have, they're like, I'm doing all the tapping, I'm doing everything, and I'm still stuck. And I'm like, yeah, but your house is bad for money. It's like, you're never going to be able to like make the money, or you won't be able, you'll make the money, but then like your pipes will burst. Like that was one client recently. It was just like, we had like the biggest launch ever, and then we got a $50,000 bill for our whole water system, and everything exploded in their house. And she's like, what? And I'm like, well, your house is bad for people and bad for money. And she's like, yeah, that makes sense. Like that totally makes sense, because I've been doing all this inner work. So it's that understanding of the merging of the two, that once you start to do the inner work, that it's not necessarily your fault, which I feel like it's almost nice for people to go, oh my God, like they sit back and relax and like, so you mean it's not me? It's like, yeah,
it's just the bones. It's the structure that you're living in.
Structure that you're in. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I never thought about it in that way before. And now it's like, oh, so if someone were to commit to like do the work and like feng shui their place, I mean, how long does that take? Is that like is it like room by room or zone by zone? What's that process look like?
It's, you know what? It totally depends on the person, because I have like clients who obviously you have to think about this. There could be like resistance. And I was describing this in a call today. I was like kind of comparing it to my 70-year-old uncle. He was like a bachelor and he's really cranky and he's really like not the most friendly person. We're like, I love him, but obviously some people would like not get on with him, and he really is like judgmental and mean and nasty and all this stuff. But you know, he's still like that, and he's kind of quirky. Right. But I was saying to my clients, I was like, you know, you put your remedies in. Your house is like a 70-year-old man. It has this personality for 70 years. It's going to take some time to change it. Like we are really working with powerful energies. Like we're working with the elements like fire and water and metal. We're just working. It's like what the earth that is made of is what we're bringing into the home to really align it. Yeah. So I have clients, once I talk to them and we've done a session and they're like, I'm doing it. It's like 2 days later, they're like, I have everything done. And I'm like, whoa. And then I have others who work on my program and they're doing it for like the 7 weeks and they've got everything, they've completed. And then others are coming back the second round going, I still haven't quite finished. And I feel like it's like also where you're at and how ready you are, because you're like, everyone's at different levels and they're going to get resistance because maybe they haven't quite done the inner work themselves to allow themselves the flow of prosperity. You know, I got on a call with a lady a couple of months ago and I forgot. It's like, so what did you do in the program? She's like, really to just like sort out our finances. And there was like one specific thing that she needed to put in. She had it. She just hadn't turned it on. And I was like, why? So just remind me why you haven't put that, why you haven't done this? Like it was prosperity and you just, this is the one thing you should do for your prosperity area. And she was like, oh, I don't know. She's like, I'll do it today. And I'm like, you're allowed to have money. Like you're allowed to allow, you know, it's about that deserving, the worthiness. So there's a real interesting connection between like your inner work and the outer world, because there could be just an inner resistance to allowing it to flow in. But once clients are like, yeah, I'm ready, this makes total sense, I'm just going to get it all done, and they get it all done, and despite resistance of say their husbands who would be, he says crazy, and they're like, I know this is what I need to, I know, I feel like I know this is what I need to do, and they do it. And like, I just remember one lady and she was just the sweetest woman. And she messaged, she's like, I'm just going to do it. You know, I'm just going to do this course. And her husband was like, yeah, whatever. And he'd been unemployed for 6 months. And the day after we fixed their house from being bad for money to good for money, he got a job. And he's like, I'm not saying it's anything to do with that stuff, but how can I help you with anything else? You know? And it's like, they're like, oh, okay. So they just turn, because it obviously, and for me, when I see this and it's the ripple effect for me, because it's like the mother, the person the woman who's in tune, who feels into there's something still not right, sitting well in this house, they tune in, they have to stand in their power 100%. Because there's resistance from all around going, you're crazy, what are you doing? Their kids, their teenage kids, their parents, and they're like, no, I see a bigger picture to this. They stand in their power, they implement everything, and then it's their children who get like a $70,000 scholarship for a course. The husband that gets a job. It's like the ripple into everybody's life. It's not just that one person. And it's like everyone who comes into the house. And this is a huge one for us. Like, so my mom is like not into any of this, like at all. Like my parents, my sisters, they're just like, nah, not into it. And it's totally cool. Like they're 100% supportive, which is so sweet. But I did insist on feng shui in my mom's house when I went home. So I was like, I'm doing it. Like totally. And she was like totally resistant. So I was doing everything. And yesterday she messaged me and she's like, I want to paint the wall in this kitchen. I want to paint the wall kitchen. What color should it be? And I was like, oh, I'll check your report and let you know. So it's like the time zone difference is a bit off, like between Ireland. So I haven't got around to doing it. So like, she's just after waking up again this morning. Would you tell me what color I have to pick? Because she's like, so
she believes now.
But she's even resistant to it, but she's like, I'm not going to paint this. She's in one of my groups as well. So she's seeing everyone like asking me all these questions. And she's like, maybe something.
She knows what she's talking about. Yeah.
So she's like, I'm not going to chance it, you know? And I'm like, oh, wow. Like it's just amazing. It blows my mind because I'm like, even my mom is like texting me what color.
Exactly. And it's like just doing your work. I think it's very powerful for our listeners to take in that, often your family people close to you, they're not going to get what you're doing, especially if it's like spiritually inclined, which tends to be my audience. And, you know, people may think you're a little crazy, a little off the rocker, but it worked for you and you're like feeling really good about it. And so you just keep putting it out there, and then, you know, so-and-so comes around, and you have to just remember that. I always tell people, like, don't wait for permission. Don't wait for acceptance. And it can be tough at the beginning because you think that, like, you know, your parents or these people, your best friend from, you know, when you were 5 years old, they don't always get it. And they're not always like supportive in the way that you think they're going to be, where they're like, oh my God, I'm going to refer you all this business and I'm going to be a client. And, you know, always, like, that doesn't always happen. And so you have to just do it for the love of the work. You just love the work so much. You believe in it so much that you are going to keep putting it out there. And those who are meant to be served by you will be. And whoever is not into it, that's okay too. Like, there's plenty of business for you without having to like loop in, you know, those people who just, they're not ready. You know, it was like, I think that's a lot of it, is some people are ready for it. It's like what you said, even with your, you know, your students and your clients, you know, some, it's like they'll get it just immediately because they've done all that inner work. Like, they've prepared the vehicle, they've prepared. And then these elements just, it's like, boom, it takes it to another level. And then others, it's going to be longer because they haven't done that critical inner work yet. And so this is just turning on a light, and they're working it. And so this is fascinating to me. I'm just taking a lot of notes, and you're reminding me too, just the front door thing. We actually, and it's interesting because you know, it's like we live in these structures. Like, this house has been around since, it's not super old. It's been around since the 1980s. So it's not like the 1880s or the 1780s, like the 1980s. This land's been here, you know, for a long time. And it's great land. It's like very powerful land. I know, and I do some great work here. I actually lead small retreats for some of my coaching students here and some other clients. Like, I'll do like 2-day retreats or like group VIP days, because this house like has great energy, great bones. But what's interesting is it came with like one front door, but a few years ago we did a renovation on the house. It needed to expand. Like, this room that I'm in right now didn't exist. Like, this was the land, you know? And my office was in a spare bedroom of the home, and it just didn't feel right up there. I'm like, I'm too high up. I want to be connected to the earth. I want to be able to go outside, like, immediately. I just didn't feel right up there. It was next to like my son's room. Like, I can't grow here. Like, I'm trapped. And so a few years ago, my husband and I just started talking, like, we've got to expand this house. Like, it was a family home. Actually, it was his parents' vacation home. And then they were like done when we were ready for a move out of New York City into this place. And so it became ours. We needed to make it ours. We needed to, you know, make changes, you know, all those kinds of things. And we put this room on, as well as a room above, which is, we call a library, which is really awesome. Like, the two rooms are pretty much the same size. Yeah. But completely different energy, completely, and intentional with colors. And, you know, you can see my colors here. I'm like, I'm alive when I'm in this room. I call it the Sunshine Studio. But anyway, we totally gut renovated the kitchen too. And we had a designer who came in. I don't know if she's been trained in feng shui, but she has an eye. Like, she knows her stuff. And we added a second door. So we kind of have like 2 doors into the home, plus like a gazillion sliding glass doors. But this other door has a glass window, and it was like, it just opened up the entire experience. And I'm grateful for that. I like totally changed the energy of the home. But you'll get a kick out of this. Like, the other door, which we like never used, it was like an oddly situated door that like nobody used. My kids, we now have a skating rink in the front of ice skating. Oh yeah. Yeah. This was a new development this year. We had an ice skating rink built.
That's amazing.
It's cold here, like a lot. And my kids love to ice skate. My middle son's a hockey player. And so we now have this rink up front. And so when they're done skating, like, all their skates come in. And so this front door, which again, rarely anyone uses, it became just this like composite area for like the skates and the, you know, the coats and I'm like, and I would see it and I would almost have like a panic attack. I'm like, oh my God, like, nobody can get in. And it's, my husband would be like, what's the big deal? I'm like, because you need to let the energy flow. And so I'd be the one organizing and putting it into the closet that's right there. And just, you know, because I always knew that you have to have that energy be able to flow in and out. And then something that I did, I'd be curious your insight on that. I went to Salem, Massachusetts for the first time. Have you heard of, are you familiar with like Salem? Okay. Salem, back in like the witch trial days, like way, way back, you know, when like women were being burned at the stake for being powerful, you know, there was this town in Massachusetts called Salem where it was less than 20 people, like mostly women, were burned, you know, basically killed. Yeah. And they had like the witch trials, and they basically were all killed. And anyway, so that town has a lot of energy. And I had never been there. I moved to Massachusetts in 2010 by way of New York City, and I grew up in the southern part of the United States. And I read a book earlier this year called Witch, which is really good, by this woman, Lisa Lister, who is from, I think she's British, and really good book. I think you'd appreciate it. And when I read that, I was like, I got to go to Salem. Like, cause she just talks about like the history of strong women and
shivers.
It was so, and I got in touch with a friend of mine. I'm like, if you ever move back to Massachusetts, I'm like, have you ever been to Salem? Like, I need to go there. And so we went earlier this year, and I went to this really awesome store. She kind of had been there before. She brought me to these great little places, and they sell besoms there, which are, what are the sweepers? What are those like? What are the, like the little sweeps? Brooms. Brooms. Yeah. I'm like, what are the sweeper things? Yeah. Brooms. And so it's like witches and broomsticks, but they're classically called a besom, BESOM. And so you can keep it near your front door, and energetically it like sweeps the energy. It like clears the energy. So we had these gorgeous like handmade besoms at this shop, and they smelled so good. It was just, you know, a real stick, and these beautiful, you know, the like wheat, look like wheat shafts that like on the end, so natural, the whole thing. So now I keep that at my front door, and I have it in this beautiful like vase, and it's like a piece of art. But there are times I just take it out and I like sweep that energy. I sweep that energy, and it's like all the, you know, all the old stuff out, you know, anything that's coming in is fresh and vibrant and filling us. And so I'm like, oh my God, well, I'm excited to check out your work more. How can people find you?
So people can find me at patricialohan.com, and I have like lots of little tips, like 1 minute miracle tips there. And I also have some downloads. I have an ebook, which is one to feng shui your office. Ooh. So it's about setting up your office for feng shui, because there's lots of, you know, just entrepreneurs, and I see them on calls, and I'm just like, oh, you could tweak this, or maybe you need a better chair. There's some like really important things that you could do to really attract more clients and money and good stuff into your life through your office.
Okay. Gotta check that out.
Yes.
All right. Awesome. PatriciaLohan.com. We will have that linked up on our show notes page too. All right. Well, you have obviously made some really gutsy moves in your life. I love all like, the physical moves that you've made to these wonderful places. And I will tell you that I also trained to become a yoga teacher many moons ago, not in India. I did it in New York City. Changes your life. Like you just, it's wild. Like, And I actually last year did go to India for a wonderful 2-week journey through, and it was just fantastic. So I think travel is such a wonderful thing. Everyone should be doing it. Like get out, you know, our house is great. We want to feng shui it and make it all beautiful and like supportive of us, but you need to go out and see the world, because that's where you have some realizations that will shift you forever. So Patricia, what is the gutsiest move you've ever made, and how does it inspire your life and work today?
The gutsiest move I ever made was one that I did refer to. It was like quitting and moving to India and that journey. But it was when I came back to Ireland and people said to me, what are you going to do now? And I woke up and was like, I'm moving to Dublin. And this was like not a normal strategic decision. I moved to Dublin. I had 50 euros. I had nowhere to live. A friend was like, you can have my spare room. Another friend was like, I have a bicycle. And for me, starting with 50 euros in a little bedroom of my friends and a bicycle I always just, when I'm here in Bali having a rough day and my business is like so much, so massive compared to back then.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you're having one of these days, like,
yes.
what am I doing? Or how can I do it? Or whatever. And I just go, Patricia, reframe this. If you can start your business with 50 euros, pretty much homeless, and a borrowed bike, you can do anything. You can just do anything. And just that sense of like knowing that there's everything and anything is possible. And I think for me, that was it was a gutsy move, because everyone was like, you're nuts. Whatever about moving to India and all that, they had seen me travel before, but this was like a really weird one. You're going to set up a business in a city you've never lived in, like doing singing bowls. Like my mom was like, what do you do with the fruit bowls? So that for me was and actually it was the most kind of divinely guided one, because it was like when I moved there, I met my spiritual like family. I met my husband. It was where it all started when I moved there. So I feel like following that crazy notion of like, I'm moving to Dublin, like waking up, I'm moving to Dublin, because the India thing had been crazy, but that was my soul calling me to kind of escape whatever it was.
Right.
So for me, that was really the gutsiest one. And it's the one that I look back on and I'm like, you can do that. You can do anything. There's just like no stopping you. And I feel like even people hearing this going, you know, I always recount that story to different people and they're just like, you what? 50 euros? And I'm like, yeah. And it just all worked out. And I think that's where you have that sense of like, everything just always works out.
It does.
Especially when you listen to that, like, and you take that weird step, because once you've made the decision, all the balls started to roll into place. You know, all the things, like literally I made the decision, the room, so where are you going to live? I was like, I don't know. And then my friend said, you can have my room, that single room. How are you going to get around? I was like, I don't know, I'll get a bike. My other friend was like, here's a bike. You know, it was like, I didn't need to do anything actually, just to show up and say, this is what I'm doing. And all of the resources came in. So it was that was a huge lesson in just trusting that instinct that we all have, and just taking action on it, and then everything works out. So
oh my gosh, yes, all of that. I agree. I mean, that's it. That's the spirit of really this show, and what I believe in, and what I've lived myself. And unfortunately, I've seen, Patricia, like women especially have a hard time with that. You know, they have a hard time. It's like, we want to know how it's all going to end. You know, well, how is that all going to end? It's like, I need it. And you're like, you can't. Why do you want to know the ending of the movie? Like before you get there, you have to just take that next step. And once you do, these things will show up, and then you take the next one and they show up, and it's like the showing up and believing that, and just saying to the universe, like, let's do this. Let's co-create. I trust you. And yes, I'm scared, but I trust you. And I'm going to do it. And I believe. And so y'all, everyone tuning in, take that to heart. Yeah. Take that next step. Just take that step that is calling you today. Even if nobody else understands, you get it. And that's enough. That's enough. For sure. Thank you so much, Patricia. You're amazing.
Thank you so much.
This has been a lot of fun. We are on a 12-hour time difference. So shout out to Patricia for being up late, and me being up kind of like regular time. And thank you to technology for making this all happen. It does. All right, everybody. This is Jenny Feng. I'm sending you so much love, light, and faith as you get gutsy. I'll see you next time.